Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Tanya, the VP of Marketing at Pour My Beer and Pour My Beverage, and I'm really excited to host you for another Sip and Learn. This time I am in Hampton in Homewood Suites in Boston Seaport here with Charlie York. Charlie York is the general manager over here, and he's going to share some of his secret sauce with you. Charlie, so great to have you.
Can't wait. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Before I kick things off, I just want to take a little moment and thank our sponsor over there, GoTap. Thank you so much to GoTap POS, especially Deborah over there, who is going to be able to answer your questions if you have any after the session or during the session. If we end up taking any break, we'll see how long we run over here. We also are doing a little fun thing today. So I have 3 self-pour gift cards that can be honestly used anywhere around the US in any of our 400 Pour My Beer locations. So this is really fun. If you ask any fun questions after the session here with Charlie is over and we'll do Q&A, Justin will pick 3 favorite questions and he'll give those gift cards to you. So you can go ahead and pour some more drinks if you don't have enough today. We are also going to be going to Hampton Brewery across the street after this event is over. So if you feel like you haven't had enough beers today, and if you want to have some great food with us, we're happy to treat you there. So make sure to join us. And now, without further ado, let's kick things off. Charlie, can you tell me a little bit about your background in the hospitality industry and what got you started?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at this property actually since opening. So I joined the Hilton team about 3 years ago. We opened just about a year and a half ago, but I started in the industry at 16. And it's a quick story. I actually went and applied to 2 places. I applied to Market Basket and I applied to my local Marriott. And the local Marriott was the first one that hired me. So I became a banquet houseman and really passionate. So most of my career was spent in food and beverage, hotels, independent catering facilities, restaurants, and then really fell in love with, rooms operations and overall hotel management about 15 years ago and spent those 15 years with Marriott and Starwood before I came over to the Hilton side.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Charlie. Now let's hop into the section 1, getting started. Can you tell me a little bit more about evolution of the Hampton Inn and Homewood Suites here in Boston Seaport?
This property really was here to fill a niche. The fact that the convention center here on this side of the city had a need for more additional rooms. And so really the city was working with local ownership groups, trying to figure out, what brands fit. And really this side of the city was missing value brands. So this, even though it's a very unique Hampton Homewood, it really fills the need of the additional rooms. So 416-room hotel within 2 walking blocks to the convention center.
Fabulous. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you chose self-pour model over a traditional bar model?
Absolutely. So again, with the Hampton Homewood, the traditional kind of outfit, if you go to any of our properties, it's a limited kind of staff model, if you will, and really looking at some sort of option for food and beverage here in the Seaport. We wanted to give our guests an opportunity with a little bit more flexibility and finding the self-pour model, it's been a huge benefit.
Awesome. Why did you think self-pour station would be specifically beneficial for your lobby?
This location's great because there's some really good restaurants, within walking distance, but nothing like right outside our door. So the goal is really to be able to give a beverage to somebody the second they walk in.
Wonderful. And I'm sure the guests love it.
They do.
Great.
They do.
So how did you come across as Pour My Beer?
Yeah, so our ownership group actually has a very similar model in Chicago. And they actually found Pour My Beer first. I wish I could take all the credit for this hotel. And actually right before opening, they actually had such great success at the Chicago property. They put a self-pour station in and then eventually enhanced it to a wall unit. And then, they really said, hey, we should take a look at this for our Boston property. And within 6 weeks of opening, we were able to get one.
Fabulous. That was fast.
Yeah.
Why did you choose your specific setup? So you have 6 tap and 3 screens. Why did you choose that side?
Yeah, so at that time, actually, with Pour My Beer and Micromatic, we were actually, I think this was the only model that was available about a year and a half ago. But I also think at 6 tap gave us the opportunity to kind of explore some different beer options and give more than just, a few options, if you will.
Yeah, we were able to actually learn from Pour My Beer family members like Charlie that there was a little bit more need in the market to have different sizes. So right now, Pour My Beer has available 3 sizes for the self-pour station. It's going to be 2 screens with 4 taps, 6 taps with 3 screens, and then the biggest one is now 4 screens, 8 taps. So there's definitely that option too. Great. Thanks, Charlie. When you implemented the self-pour setup, did you do any advertising or any marketing to start with?
That's a really good question. So, for those of you who came into the lobby, you can see kind of it self-markets itself when you see this shiny unit right by the front desk. But one of the things that we realized is a lot of people just didn't know what it was. So we did roll out after that. We worked with Pour My Beer on some marketing collateral, and so we did put some advertisements, within the elevators, And then a huge focus really was with our team. I think point of sale marketing was our team kind of engaging the guests as they arrive to be able to kind of have that point of sale immediately. This is something, though, I'm going to be honest, that we're still really working on. Because I think the goal is at every check-in that we're able to sell the beer cards directly to the guest at time of check-in, so they can just go and enjoy and not have to come back for a second transaction.
Right, thank you. How much time did it take you, take in this idea from that dream of like, yeah, I want to have the self-pour station here, all the way to actual execution?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So the second we actually reached out to William Metropolis, we'll give him a big shout out because he was the sales rep, and
Hey, Will.
within immediately, within contacting him, we had a contract in hand. He was super prompt, and 6 weeks was the delivery date to the front door, which was actually a day before we opened the hotel. Which was a little nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
but still a short window. We didn't think we were going to have it before opening, so it was kind of a blessing.
Always lots of fun having all these moving pieces.
Absolutely. Add
Great.
one more thing.
Great, I love it. All right, so this concludes the first section of getting started. Let's jump into the opening the door section 2. What's your experience with self-pour technology with your guest, and what's the experience of the self-pour first-timers here?
Yeah, so I will tell you, when we first put the machine in, like, I think nobody really knew. Nobody really had seen self-pour before. There's definitely other locations, but not tons of our guests had experienced it right away. I'll tell you nowadays, it's about 50% of our guests, I think, have seen it or used it. Some repeat to us, which is pretty interesting, and some that have experienced it, no matter what other restaurant venue they've been to.
Mm-hmm. How do you overcome that experience of the self-pour first-timer and not knowing what to do, how to use the technology?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, like, I'm service focused first, so when you see something in the lobby, I think we witnessed it a little bit this afternoon. It was really interesting, kind of seeing folks. They'll go up to the wall and just start tapping.
Credit card.
Yeah, they'll tap the credit card.
Yeah.
They'll tap their room key, which we're working on, and then eventually you have to show them how to actually place the card into the holder.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what it is. It's still such a great model to be able to have a limited staff, but be able to kind of be there as assistants. And a little bit of it is explaining it as you sell the card to somebody, explaining kind of how you put it in, and then it's also with the collateral. We started actually with so many people not knowing the unit at all. We actually started with a quick video that you guys helped us produce to show folks kind of how to actually use and how to hold the 45-degree angle.
Mm-hmm. That's the magic.
That's the
magic. Yeah, lots of
you don't want
lots
too
of
much
devices
head, right?
don't know. Everybody thinks it's so easy to pour your own beer,
Yeah,
but then
no.
they do it the first time, and it's almost like, well, it's not that easy. It's a lot of foam.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you manage overconsumption? How do you take care of making sure that that doesn't happen in the Hampton Inn?
Yeah. So one of the great features in the unit actually is there's a 2-drink kind of limit, if you will. And then also, the whole piece that we also try to double down on this is not selling a card with too much value on it. It's just one thing with our small hotel and limited staffing that we want to make sure we control it a lot. And so we do have the guests come back to the desk often. But I'll tell you, the 2-drink limit on the machine is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, I will add to it that the legal limit is there as a default setting. The operator, it's up to them if they want to change that serving size, for example, to be smaller for cocktails or wine that are stronger than beer, or even if you have high IBV beer and you want to change that legal limit for serving to be smaller than 16 ounce, that's definitely possible. That we try to give that freedom to the operators so they can play with that. Great. What were the 3 lessons that you've learned, from the start of your journey with the self-pour station all the way till now?
Yeah, I would say the number one was just use that technology. So you mentioned the default settings. There's so much technology in this machine. One of the things we learned is having the machine shut off at our last call time.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started, not knowing 100% that functionality was there, we would put a big sign up saying machine closed, and then realize that that machine can just lock down automatically, making it so easy for our team, which is really, really nice. And then I think, some of the marketing things, like how do we get it out to the world that we have this option? Because the fact that we don't have a restaurant directly on site at this time, it's nice to have, the option that you can grab a beer and self-pour.
Great. Just to kind of add to this again, we do have a function that allows operators to set up an hours of operations ended at specific time of the day. It does happen that I'm sure you've experienced it yourself when it got busy and people want to still keep pouring, but your liquor license doesn't necessarily allow you to serve them after that time.
Correct.
So you're just basically utilizing it. Is it the same for you every day when you shut the self-pour station?
7 days a week, yeah.
7 days a week. Got it. Great. What struggles have you faced, if any, when you open your doors for the first time? I'm hoping you say none, but you can share some if there were some.
Yeah, no, there's always struggles. I mean, I will tell you this is and this is not like a sales pitch by any means, but I mean, this is a really easy system. Like I was actually really nervous, especially with opening a brand new hotel and trying to make sure we had all of our rooms ready and all of our reservations in. I was nervous that one more piece of machinery that was like just gonna have to have a lot of technology in it was gonna be hard, but the machine was very easy to set up. I mean, we had done it ourselves. Really, and it really was so easy. The biggest struggle I think we had and not really continue to have because we figured it out is ordering enough cards. Because I didn't realize how many guests we put our logo on our card, which I know not everybody does, but it's kind of like a fun little business card thing if people do take it. But I didn't realize how many people would actually take these cards. So you don't want to be there on like a Saturday night and all of a sudden you have no card. Now the good thing is that with the technology, there's an option, and we have a cleaning card that our manager will go over and put in and pour and sell, but that defeats the purpose of the self-pour.
Yeah.
Right. So ordering enough cards is the lesson.
Ordering enough cards. Just a side question: did they evolve at all for you, the cards, in any capacity, or have you had the same branding on them since the beginning?
No. So we actually started with a non-branding, and then kind of developed into that, which was really nice. Because again, when we had just the Pour My Beer, it was a nice logo and everything, but it was a really good opportunity, especially knowing that so many people were taking these things. It was great to kind of have our logo out there in the world.
Yeah, since in our previous conversations together, you mentioned you have a lot of regulars that come back. Do you have them like show up and say like, hey, I still have the card from the last time?
We do. Yeah, a lot of our business travelers, especially as corporate travel came back in the last, 6 months to a year, it is interesting seeing those folks kind of bring the cards back.
That's great. So the branding just stays with them while they're
Exactly.
traveling. That's awesome. Great. All right, the last two questions of the section 2, then we'll hop in the last one. How do you ensure your hotel guests know about your self-pour setup and obviously know how to use it?
Yeah, so really, not to kind of repeat, but I mean, really it's about the point of sale, having our front desk agents at time of arrival, mention it, obviously the visibility in the lobby. But the one big thing we did with our Hilton brands was add this to our website. And that was one of the big things we worked with our company, was having the ability to kind of post the fact that we have this self-pour machine so that guests knew coming to the hotel before they even step foot in the door, this would be an option for them.
That's great. Yeah, the visibility is definitely a big one, because if it was hidden somewhere in the corner, you would be much more dependent on having the staff say that.
That's the key. I'll tell you, when any operator that's looking to put one of these things in, I really think like you need to have this in like a visible location. Number one, it's really nice to be able to monitor, because if a keg runs out, you don't want to have to run around the corner to try to find somebody, but that's definitely a huge benefit.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I can't stretch this enough in all our videos and blog posts, but I think that coming from me, it doesn't sound as strong as from the operators. So hopefully anybody watching this video later will remember at least this as a key takeaway. Make sure that your self-pour setup is visible.
Absolutely.
All right. Last question of the section 2. Do you use the happy hour feature for specific hours of the day to encourage the guests to use the self-pour setup?
I wish, but Boston does not have happy hours.
Yeah, doesn't allow you to do that.
Someday.
That's all right. Hopefully down the road they'll allow you to do that. Great. It's definitely one of the most popular feature for Pour My Beer among the operators. Great. We got section 3, jumping in on the last one, which is ongoing success. As the attendees could see down there, you have a great thing going on. The guests of the hotel absolutely love it, enjoy it. It definitely enhances their experience. So can you tell us a little bit more about the workflow that the guests go through as they arrive to the hotel? When do they get checked in? Where are they prompted to get their pour card?
Yeah, so really it is that check-in process. So now with our digital arrival experience, there definitely is opportunity with folks kind of going right to their room. But really it is at that immediate check-in point that we're activating this. All the cards are made directly at the desk. We make them every single day. We'll make them, at time of transaction, depending if people are looking for those different denominations. And then really at that point, it's easy. It's self-service at its finest.
And I heard your team mention that sometimes when you have a bigger parties arriving to the hotel, or especially like a wedding guest arriving, they are getting goodie packages and they'll have some of the pour cards already in there.
Yes, that's a huge selling feature. And for anybody that's any other hotels out there, I'll tell you, it's a really good opportunity for your sales manager to actually promote Pour My Beer up front with a group, because then we just pre-make the cards and actually leave them for wedding parties, for corporate groups, whatever it may be, because a lot of these groups are planning outside events in the city, but there's nothing like a quick little gathering in the lobby before you head out and a quick drink. And typically you're waiting at that long line at the bar, waiting for the one bartender. Here, everybody can pull up, 3 cards at a time going, and then they can be on their way to their restaurant reservation, their event, whatever it is.
Great, thank you. Now, how long did it take you to hit your ROI with the self-pour station from Pour My Beer?
Yeah, the ROI is an interesting one, and this one I'll tell you, I think we are very fortunate at this hotel, and we've talked about this. We hit ROI at 3 months. This downtown location, I think we had a huge opportunity for folks, looking for a beverage in the lobby. We don't have a restaurant like directly at the side door, nor do we have one here. So 3 months was shocking to us, but we feel very fortunate for it.
I'm gonna pretend like I haven't heard this before, and
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
3 months, that's great. Love it. Quick question on that. So 3 months was how quickly you hit that, and obviously some decision makers, anybody who's watching this video later, do you have any tips? How would you recommend them to navigate through this? Because this will be a question that they'll definitely be asking themselves. Do we want to do a self-pour station of just 6 taps, 3 screens? Do we want to do the bigger one, or do we actually want to do fixed wall? Any tips for them where they could start, where they should start?
Yeah, I would say, if we had the option of the other options, the larger, smaller, I will tell you, I probably would still pick the 6 taps. I think it offers enough variety. We offered a couple wines and then realized that those weren't really moving because we had offered some bottled selections as well next, in our sweet shop. Beer is Boston's a beer city, so beer is where it was at. But I'll tell you, I think the tip is trying to figure out kind of what's your market, right? What's your customer profile? What do you have outside your front door? Is this your only staple, or do you have other kind of varieties that you're offering? I think those are the big questions to ask.
That makes sense. And what was your decision point on doing the self-pour station versus the fixed wall? Was it the fact that you would be able to take it to a private room or some private banquet or anything
Exactly.
like that?
Yeah, the initial thought was really the fact that, hey, we like the mobility of this Pour My Beer Micromatic machine. It's really interesting because it also allowed us to pick and play kind of where we wanted it actually in the lobby. We had this huge wall that was just sitting empty, and it was kind of left, for the design phase, was actually left on purpose to kind of draw your attention to the fireplace that's next to it. But it also was like kind of meant to be that the Pour My Beer machine would be there.
Great. How do you manage your labor? Is there anybody extra that's working just to cover the self-pour station and help out with that?
No, so that's the unique thing. So we're actually a union hotel as well. So this, the machine was really critical to us that, it was not going to add any additional labor, nor was going to impact anybody's job. And, it was, the front desk manages the making of the cards. And then we actually have another department that helps, load the kegs. But other than that, it's a really easy machine to use.
Awesome. So it's always, at all times, always covered by the employees, even if you have bigger events, wedding, or anything like that happening.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'll tell you. When the volume increases, just from a selling the actual Pour My Beer card or just kind of cleaning and kind of maintaining the station, we will add some extra team members when we know a big group's going to come back, either before an event or after an event, or if we have a huge wedding party or multiple wedding parties staying here over the weekend, we will add 1 or 2 people.
They're
just
generally
to be
helping
around.
at the front desk. And
Exactly.
kind of
Yep.
help with
Other
the
tasks definitely included.
Got it. Perfect. Love it. Last 2 questions before I pass the word to the audience. So I definitely encourage everybody to ask questions in just a little bit. So get your questions ready. We'll be giving out those gift cards. So my next question here is, how do you set the pricing structure for your self-pour station?
Yeah, so that was the big thing. So, for those of you who know Boston pricing, I mean, beer's not cheap in downtown Boston. What we did is we shopped around with the local restaurants, the other hotels, and said, hey, what's a pint of beer cost? And we found the average price was about like $10, $11. So we said, we really wanted to be in that $10 range. And the cool part about pricing per ounce, which is how we do it on the card, is that you can buy a $10 card and that will actually give you a pint plus a sip, is what we say. Okay. So it allows the guests to go up, try a quick sip, and then be able to pour their full pint of beer.
Sounds like you have to come visit me in Colorado Springs. The beer there is like $7, $8 top, so significantly cheaper.
I'll buy you one.
Yeah. Why don't you buy me one here? I buy you one there. Sounds like a deal. All right, this is my last question before I pass the word to the audience. What's next for the Hampton Inn Homewood Suite here in Boston Seaport?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, we've had really good success with this, unit so far. One of the things that we've been looking at is, how do we take this and see that great success? Our guests love it. We're making tons of money on it. And so right now I'm working with the ownership group to actually put a full wall unit in, not only to increase kind of the enhancement of the lobby space, but also add some additional taps, because we have seen that we probably will add back either a mixed cocktail or some wine to that.
Thank you so much. Before I fully wrap things up, I do want to give the word to the audience if they have any questions, if there's any questions for Charlie and specifically his property or selecting beverages. Now would be a good time. Justin will pick the favorites and give them a self-pour gift card to any of our locations. Any questions here? Yeah.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Brian. All right.
My question is, how do you encourage your team to sell the station?
So that is something that we're working on right now. I'll tell you, we talked about this like opportunity where we definitely need to sell more at the desk at time of check-in. And we've been looking at some sort of incentive program or something to entice that. Because it is hard, because as you know, with the hotel business, like there's so much when you arrive at a hotel, from collecting payment to selecting room to everything else, that just adding another task is difficult. But I think in some sort of incentive to make it fun is something we're looking at right now. Absolutely.
Do you have something like a script for them or not really? You kind of let them do their personality when they check people in, and it's up to them if they mention that right now or not?
Yeah, and that's the big thing. I think the problem is we had such great success with this when we started that we didn't see an opportunity for that. But now, especially with putting a wall in, I think we need to do more of that. More of the training, the scripting, the incentives.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
When you put the wall in, are you planning on going to glassware, or are you still gonna stick with the plastic?
No, we're probably going to glassware at that point. Yeah. Yeah, the plasticware was actually started with COVID restrictions, and then we never phased out of it once we kind of transformed and tried to figure out how this whole thing was going to work with the volume that we had. But if we did a wall, we would elevate the whole look and feel of it.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It seems like you have a lot of things in the works and opportunity with this system. It seems like the system's been brought in. Are you planning this, or do you have a support from Pour My Beer on the growth factor and the expansion into the market here? Is that left on the end user? Is that more of a question for you?
It's a little bit of a question for both.
Yeah, that's what my question was.
So every our prospects at the time get assigned to a specific sales representative. I don't like the word sales. I would say self-pour rockstar, the expert. And they work with the customer to make sure that they are set up for success. So they will try to recommend them based on their area. What is the ideal number of tabs, number of screens, what type of setup they should have. And just like in this case, he worked with William Metropolis. And after seeing that success, after being able to test it with the self-pour station, they now know and identify that they could do more. So I don't know if you had a specific conversation with Bill about what number of taps you're going to want to do for the fixed wall. Have you had that?
Yeah. And what we do is like, when we had the idea of like, hey, this would be, something beneficial to increase, working with Pour My Beer, they'll give you all the specs.
Perfect.
They'll tell you what the steps are to take. They make it really easy.
Perfect. So then I guess my other question would be then, so what's your expansion been like in other markets? I mean, you bring in the unit. Do you have examples of where you have worked with other markets? Like this hotel in New York, we brought in this mobile unit, and here's where we're at now. I'm just kind of curious what that's like, because it seems like an amazing system. And I'm a guy that brings something in, and as we know, I'll bring in this cup, and the next thing you know, I've got all this here.
Yeah.
And that's where I see this opportunity. So I'm just curious.
Are you looking for a sales job? Just kidding.
As a brand standard,
Yep.
we've had such great success, and Charlie's been a really big champion for us within the Hilton brand.
Perfect.
So right now we are rolling it out to their Home 2 brands, Homewood Suites brands, and Hampton brands. All new builds it's part of the scope of the lobby. All renovations, it will be a part of the scope. And then if they're doing stuff in between, like let's say they're not projected to have a renovation for the next 5 to 8 years, that's when they can just choose if they want to add. So a lot of those are choosing to have a self-pour station now until it becomes a per se brand standard.
Thank you.
So that's where the evolution's going within the Hilton brand. We're talking with other hotels as well. As far as the growth in the different markets, we've seen a huge adoption with casinos.
Yeah.
Big adoption in the food hall space. One of our operators is in house today and does a great job with that. And we're excited about their growth and happy to grow with them.
And residential, right? Because that's, I think,
Well, that's where I'm going.
we've talked to a few, I've personally talked to a few people who've kind of toured the hotel and looked at the machine. And residential is huge, because if you have an owner of some sort of condo facility or something, it's a great option to have.
We actually have a few buildings in Chicago already utilizing it for their residents. It's mostly non-alcoholic. They like to do cold brews and kombucha, but that's only because they want to avoid having to have any staff member that's monitoring if there is anybody who could be below 21. So they just don't want to take that liability. But besides that, it's definitely successful. And actually, Charlie could share that the Chicago property that you learned about this opportunity, they actually started with, I believe, fixed wall and then added self-pour station, or was it the other way
Other
around?
way, yeah. They started with the same way, and then they developed the wall because they saw such great success there too.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that for me on the end, that's great residential. And what I just heard too is, focused partnership to ensure growth. And for me, that's really what I was kind of looking for. So that's amazing. Thank you. Too many people try to do other stuff, so I'm really happy. Thank you.
Definitely. Anybody else has any questions here in the audience? We had another one there.
That's great. Do you allow groups to buy out the unit for events?
So we have not. We would absolutely allow that, but yeah, we have not as of yet. But yeah, our Chicago property had really great success with that, and we would definitely entertain that because it just makes sense. Because it's easy if you don't want to have that bartender or someone wants to save the bartender fee for a banquet. You can easily just roll the machine in and hand out the cards.
Great. Any other question over? Oh, I got two, so let's do them over there.
Oh, I have a question. So Northern Massachusetts has a lot of liquor laws and restrictions. What was the process like to get into Raleigh for getting the liquor license?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was actually really simple. The big thing with the liquor laws in Massachusetts is the IDing, and we have that process through the card, luckily. And the fact of that location. That's why I said, I think there is that component of you need that, self-pour station like near somebody still, because you have to be monitoring, who's pouring. But yeah, no major issues.
Great. And Chris had a question as well.
Chris from Ecomatic, we've shared lots of emails. What's your plans with the self-pour unit after the wall goes in? Obviously, like she just asked, you're probably going to use it for buyouts and things like that. Is it going to have another home permanently in the hotel?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the repurpose of that is to roll it right up here in banquets to use it full time.
Any final questions, anybody?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I really appreciate everybody who is here live. I also extra appreciate everybody who is later watching this recording. Hello. Feel free to comment below on YouTube if you have any questions. We've had plenty of great questions here from the audience. Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have learned a lot from you, not just today, but also in my last visit. I hope that the attendees here learned a lot as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Can we give him a little applause?
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.